Everybody deserves to have their own little piece of paradise. And you know what, if you've got it in your own back garden, well, it makes a lot of sense. Now, if you think you don't have enough money to create that, well, think again. We're going to get some great design tips and learn how to create your own paradise with the help of an expert. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, what is the first thing you would say to somebody if they have an absolute blank canvas and they want to create something good?
Good is in the eye of the beholder. So each person will have their idea of what paradise is or what it can be, and they need to identify how they're going to use that area. Is it going to be used for entertaining, for relaxing, just as a showpiece to look good? And once you've identified that, you can then narrow down the type of functionality you'd like, whether you'd like something that makes noise like a water feature, or whether you'd like something that is purely sculptural, that just looks good, or a place where you can entertain. You need cooking facilities, an outdoor kitchen, that type of element. Once you've taken those ideas that you have, or your wish list, into account, you can then start working out where to position what and how they'll all fit together, and then that's how your design starts. Once you've decided on those hardscape features and you've positioned them in the garden, then you start looking at filling up with plants to soften the area and to create a little bit more of a nature type feel to the area, so it doesn't have that man-made warehousey kind of feel.
Now, I know that you've had quite a few people who say, oh, I've got this garden and I never spend any time in it, I just look at it. And it might have stuff in it, but it's not particularly comfortable to be in.
That happens a lot. If your garden isn't something that looks good or appeals to you, you're not going to spend time there. You'd rather spend time inside the house or at a shopping centre or at a friend's house. A lot of people spend a lot of money going away on weekends to hotels for a few days and spend a fortune when they could create that same type of vibe at their own house. And it doesn't have to cost as much as what they think it would. Obviously, if you get someone in to do it, it's going to cost more than if you do it yourself, but nothing stops you from doing it yourself. These are all handmade, hand-built products at the end of the day, and it's not like you need special machinery beyond the basic DIY tools. You don't really need much to create something awesome.
Oh, but you say that, but then sometimes you might be, sitting at home and you've done a great job, you think, of your paving, and your friends come and say, oh, did you do the paving yourself?
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to hear. So when in doubt, you can always ask an expert. You can get people to come and consult with you if you're looking to do it yourself, or get someone to come and design the area for you and implement it. So it just depends on what your take is and what your budget is. If you do have some money to spend with a professional who does it for a living, you can get them to do certain bits and pieces, and then you could do other bits and pieces that you feel more comfortable with. You can do that yourself. So it's quite flexible.
So you've got somebody who's sitting out there and thinking, okay, I'll get somebody in to come and do my garden for me. How do they know what to look for when they're looking for a good designer? It's
the same as certain people are drawn to certain brands, certain cars. So everyone will have their idea of what they like. So if you find the easiest on the internet today, have a look at photographs, and where you see that you identify with the work of a particular person or company, then that's who you should engage with. It's like an artist. Different artists have different styles, and you will find one that suits what you are looking to do in your garden.
Yeah, now you mentioned the internet, and of course computers are playing a big part these days when it comes to garden design. You can do these amazing 3D images, and you can do your plans online. You don't have to hand draw them.
With PCs and CAD software, you can draw everything to scale very accurately. You can take measurements of square meters and linear meterage very, very easily. It's one click away. So that information is all at your fingertips, and that information is what you need to be able to quantify what goes into the garden and place an order or get a quote. It's a virtual garden. It's the cheapest way of building, because you're not having to actually destroy your garden to build something that you might not like. And at the same time, you can make changes very easily. If you decide you'd like to see what it would look like with a particular type of cladding or a particular color wall, it's a click away and you can see what it would look like. There's no guesswork involved. It removes doubt.
And it's also, I suppose, a lot easier for working out how many plants you need to get for a specific area as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because each plant will have a specific rate per square meter that you would plant. So if you know the square meterage, it's very easy to allocate the right number of plants for that area.
What are the biggest mistakes that you've found that people have made in their gardens when you've been called in to come and help them out?
As soon as the weather warms up towards spring and summer, people tend to spend more time in their gardens rather than in the house, and that's when they identify the problems with their garden, or they have been watching TV or browsing the internet and seen what they can do with their garden, and they get a bit despondent. So the initial instinct is to go to a nursery, buy some plants, which they do. They spend a fortune on plants, they get back to the house, and now they start looking at where to plant the plants. Even if you do a very, very basic sketch, even if it's not drawn to scale, and you just more or less know where you need a bush for screening or something for color, something for shade, that already gives you a good starting point, so that you know what you're looking for. So then the nurseryman can then explain to you, these are the options that we have for something that will create screening or shade or whatever the case may be, and you at least then are buying for a specific problem or a specific requirement. Otherwise it's kind of like going to a shopping centre or a grocery store and just buying food randomly, not knowing what you're going to be cooking.
So what are the pointers that you would give to people specifically when you say, all right, this is what you need to look at when you're designing your garden?
One of the biggest criteria that we look at, which most people overlook, is where does the water go? So there's water when it rains. Sometimes people will have swimming pools that backwash into a specific area. So you need to know where that water goes to, and does it just sit and settle, or does it go into a neighbour's property or elsewhere on your property? Another thing that people aren't always aware of is how much sunshine or how much shade they're getting in certain areas of their garden, and they end up planting the wrong plants in the wrong conditions. So for example, a clivia in the sun is never going to look good.
It's not going to be very happy.
Not going to be happy at all. So you need that advice, and it's largely obtainable on the internet or at your local nursery. It's not difficult to get hold of. It's a question of finding what you like, and then once you've found what you like, putting it in the right spot where you know it's going to thrive. The other thing that people don't always take into account is the scale of what they're doing. So you end up sometimes with a very small backyard, and people will put in a really big entertainment area which only just fits in that area, and there's no space for plants. And plants are the thing that softens it up. So it makes it more of a livable area. It takes away that harsh industrial kind of feel.
And what is, for you, the hottest trend that you've seen coming out of garden design at the moment?
Well, for us, it's what we call designer outdoor spaces. So that incorporates things like outdoor kitchens, basically places outside of the house, but they feel like they're part of the house. So it's almost an extension of the home where you would spend time outdoors in the garden, that have water features or entertainment spaces, and people are spending more time at home with money being more tight than it was. Overseas travel is also much more pricey now. The rand is quite weak. So people are looking at other avenues to enjoy themselves, and you invest in your home by improving it, so that money is not spent, it's invested.
Now that's the thing, people are quite happy to go and spend absolutely thousands of rands on an interior design thing, but they don't want to spend money in their garden. I mean, whereas a garden is something that could actually, if you're trying to sell your house, improve the value of your house.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also the first thing you see when you arrive at the house and the last thing you see when you leave. So the garden's vital to selling your property. There's a term, curb appeal. So if your house has got curb appeal, people take note of it. Prospective buyers or tenants will take note of that property before another one. So it certainly has a value that it adds to your property. And as time goes on, you end up having that value increasing, because to replace that will take a lot more money to do in the future, because all of the costs of materials, cost of the labor, everything else, fuel costs will have increased. So if you spend 100,000 Rand now to build that same feature, in 5 years' time, it's not going to be anywhere near 100,000 Rand.
On a small property, what would people be looking at, say, doing a little entertainment area with maybe a fire pit and some plants? I mean, what kind of budget would they look at?
The sky's the limit in terms of the upper end of the budget, but you don't have to spend a fortune. Obviously, if you do it yourself, as long as you are checking up that the building people are building to your spec and the correct sizes, you can save a bundle by doing it yourself.
So don't get despondent, don't get depressed. All you need to do is go out and have a look. Get onto the internet, go and steal with your eyes. If all else fails, of course, just call Craig.